I just woke up on Sunday out here in sunny South Florida, and I wanted to make a pretty raw, real video talking about how dopamine detox has quite literally changed my life. There's no fancy house or crazy car in this video because I'm currently reinvesting all the money I'm making back into the businesses and quick growth, but I have been able to generate over 7 figures within my businesses by the age of 22 years old. And if I wasn't able to figure this out about how your brain works with dopamine detoxes and all these different things, then I don't think I would have had nearly as much success as I have now. So right now I'm going to pick up some raw milk and some other food from the farmer's market this morning, and I'm going to take you along and talk about how I learned about this, like the history behind it, how your brain actually works, why we're wired like this, what I did to change it, and how it's helped me in my life, and then hopefully give some tips on how it can help you in your own life. The first most important thing to understand about dopamine detoxes is how your brain actually works and what's going on with the world nowadays. Now, we pretty much live in an attention economy, so all of the companies and all of the smartest people in the world, they're putting all of their time, energy, and resources into, taking more of your attention. And so what that's doing is it's cooking our dopamine receptors, because we're not wired psychologically from when humans were, cavemen and stuff like this, to have this many hits of dopamine. There's never been a time in the world where there's so much access to food and media and just all these things on social media, like just so much dopamine that we didn't have before. Your brain has an ancient reward system back hundreds or even thousands of years ago. When you were going out to collect food or resources or things like that, your brain would actually give you dopamine for, doing those things successfully, so you wanted to do it again and keep repeating that task. Now, that was extremely helpful back then, and that's what helped humans to survive as long as they have as a species. But now, it's completely flipped, because we live in a world, for most people, that they have access to all these things, and really too much access. There's so many companies trying to hijack your attention every single day that we're really at war with keeping our attention and our focus. Think about it. For example, when you're scrolling on Instagram, each new post, you're uncertain of what it's going to be, whether it's going to be amazing or boring, and it's the same psychological triggers of like pulling the slot machine at a casino. That's what these neuroscientists have developed with these social media platforms, especially Meta. And there's a famous experiment where scientists would actually drive electrodes into rats' brains that would stimulate their dopamine receptors whenever they pressed the lever. And this is so crazy to me, but over time, those rats actually stopped eating, they stopped drinking, they stopped doing pretty much anything besides just pressing the lever over and over again and hitting those dopamine receptors until they died. Now, obviously, if they put the food or the water right next to the rats where it didn't take them any more effort to go get it, then the rats would still drink the water or eat the food. But it's the same thing as humans. Let's say if you're addicted to playing video games, well, maybe you're playing that video game 12, 14, 16 hours a day, every hour you're awake, where you're neglecting eating food and working out and socializing, basic human needs. And then let's say you have parents or friends, or you just DoorDash food and that food comes directly to you. Well, obviously you're still going to eat it, but if you had to actually go do some work, farm or go kill some animals, or even literally go to the grocery store, most people really neglect that eating. And it's not to the point where they die like the rats. Obviously humans aren't rats, but we see the same behaviors in humans a lot, and that's because their dopamine receptors are fried. I originally found out about dopamine detoxes by Alex Becker's videos back in the day when I was in high school, because I was trying to grow my businesses and I was trying to have success in all these things in my life, but I couldn't quite find the missing piece, and I didn't really understand the science behind it. And so when I started seeing these videos, I started to do more and more research, and I started to quickly realize how this whole system works. And I realized that I was the rat pulling the lever. And the thing is in that experiment, whenever the scientists took away the lever and stopped putting the electrodes in the rat's brains to stimulate their dopamine receptors, it was more so about removing the overstimulation, where I could go back to enjoying activities that I really enjoyed, like working on my business and listening to CEO interviews and podcasts and like going and hanging out with my friends and just like doing like normal activities, nothing crazy. And when you're constantly scrolling or watching TV shows or on social media like 24/7, it's like turning up the volume on a speaker so loud that normal conversations sound like whispering, because you're setting the base level much higher where it's going to take you much more to get to that level. And keep in mind, like, no one I knew from my hometown, my parents, anyone I literally knew had any knowledge about this. Like, this is not that common a knowledge. I know it's become popular on social media now, but it was like, I feel like only very wealthy people or very highly successful people kind of knew about this, because I didn't know anyone talking about this. Like, I was very fortunate to find those videos and actually kind of get into that self-improvement side. But now, once I understood how my brain worked and like what was happening, I could go and solve it. So the first thing that I did was I had to do like a cold turkey, like hard reset detox, where I just didn't use anything. So my routine pretty much consisted of, whenever I would go to bed, I would put my phone in another room and it would be turned off in airplane mode, like I wouldn't have access to it, right? And then when I would wake up, I wouldn't be allowed to be on my phone for at least a couple hours, and I would prioritize deep work in the gym. It sounds easy now that I'm going back over it, but there were so many times where I would literally have to step away from work or step away from whatever I'm doing and just sit and do nothing and meditate. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's what I had to do, because you know, you're resetting your brain, like you're bringing it back down to a level. It's been used to like pushing this button or pulling this lever, like in the social media casino, whatever, like video games or social media or any of these things, and you're now resetting it to a baseline level. And that's very difficult to do, because there's people getting paid billions of dollars and they're making a ton of money off of taking your attention, and they want to continue doing that. A lot of the recent young billionaires that have been made have been from tapping into these addictions. I'm telling you, you have to hold the line with this stuff, because for me, like if I even like watched one TV show or played one video game, it's not that you can't recover from it, but it's like taking one step backwards. So just to get back to baseline, you have to take one step and then take another step to go forward. Because I had already cut out a lot of things from my life. I wasn't playing video games. I wasn't watching TV shows. I wasn't doing like a lot of the things that people do. But more so, the bigger addictions for me were like lust and social media. Like that was what was really overstimulating my dopamine, because I also have addictive personality. So whenever I am doing something or I get hooked on something, like I am completely in with that. And so the more addictive of a personality you have as well, you have to kind of understand yourself and how you work best. That can work in the positive or the negative, because if you have an addictive personality, let's say you get in on business or something like this, well, you're going to get very addicted to that and optimize every little part of it and make that business great. But if your dopamine's overstimulated, then that addiction is going to go towards something that's not as fulfilling and it's more empty. You have to be consistent before you can be good. So at first it was like I had to go cold turkey. Like I was probably even wasting some time just doing nothing, like resetting my dopamine, which it's a short-term loss for a long-term gain. But it's kind of like going to the gym or anything else that's going to benefit you in the long term. Like in the short term, you're going to have to adjust your trajectory and adjust your habits and your daily schedule. But once it's on track, you're good to go. Also, another thing that kind of threw me for a loop recently, that I had to do another dopamine detox, since the reason I'm kind of speaking on this topic now, this is the first time in my life where I don't live with other people. I always lived with my family or roommates. I lived in Thailand, Colombia, Los Angeles, but I always had roommates, or I lived with like my family growing up. And recently my roommate moved out, and that kind of also threw me for a loop, because it was like constant stimulation of like socialization, things like that. And I was in this spot where I was like clinging on to like what I had, where I would like wake up or maybe socialize at night, and I didn't have that anymore. So my brain was trying to fill that void instinctively. So I had to do a full reset. And I believe that focus is subtraction. So like living alone and living with less things can actually be extremely beneficial for periods of time. And that's something I'm testing out right now. So I'll document and see how it goes. But I feel like it's been pretty good so far. So again, I was already ahead of most people, not playing video games, not eating junk food, and pretty good health and stuff like that. And for a lot of people, it's even harder to get back to like even that point. But I've always been trying to be the best at whatever I do, so I was in a better spot than most people starting out. But again, it's about optimizing those 1%ers, so that's what I was doing. Once I did about a week of like cold turkey, like absolutely nothing, like pretty much like not on my phone at all during the day. If I need to check messages, it was on my computer. I made everything hard to access. Like I deleted all the social media apps from my phone. I don't really have a working TV. I don't even know how to access like Netflix or TV show platforms. I don't have video games downloaded. Like absolutely everything. I had blockers. I had stuff deleted. Like I added so much friction that it was so hard to do these things. And another key thing that most people don't talk about is having an accountability partner, because it's so extremely difficult to fight your own subconscious, because what's happening is when you do something for a long enough period of time, it's actually programming your subconscious, and your subconscious makes up 99% of your thoughts and actions. So you're literally fighting a losing battle because your subconscious is so powerful. So what I found is that having an accountability partner, like somebody that's pretty similar to me, like on the same path, where we basically tell each other like, hey, if you do this thing, then it's like a penalty of money or whatever. For example, for these YouTube videos, like since I've been in like middle school, I haven't posted like 6 videos in a row for 6 weeks or whatever, but I'll lose $1,000 if I don't post a YouTube video by Sunday at 3:30 p.m. So I absolutely have to post a YouTube video. And the thing is most people be like, oh, I'm not paying money, stuff like that. Well, one, you'll never pay the money if you just do the work. So it kind of forces you and tricks your brain into doing it. But also, once you start to be consistent, that's when you can actually start to be good and start to make those little improvements over time. And you have to take those baby steps, start walking before you can start running, and then it starts to compound over time. So after that first week, that's usually the hardest I found. Same thing with like going to the gym or starting any other productive habit. Week 2 is a little bit interesting. That's where I felt like I started to gain a little bit of momentum. I started to enjoy like boring tasks a little bit more. Like I could read a book, I could listen to a CEO interview or podcast or things like that. I could hit the gym. And again, you have to realize that this stuff isn't forever. Like you're just building the habit and you're just kind of adjusting the trajectory, because once you're in the flow of things, it's not that hard to stay consistent with it. It's just hard when you're changing. Sometimes I have to catch myself where I have to do like a hard reset or detox, and it just depends on the season of life I'm in. You know, if I'm traveling, if I'm out speaking to more people, if I'm making business connections, if I'm out filming content, like stuff more social, then I don't really need my dopamine to be at as low of a level. But whenever I need to lock into my business and do deep work, or I'm building a product, or I'm hiring teams, or like I'm scaling, I absolutely basically need to be pretty much locked away with no objects, no people to talk to, no stimulation at all, because I need to focus. Because another thing I didn't realize, and this is what a lot of successful people do that I kind of picked up on, is they take a lot of walks. One of the most successful guys that I met last year, I actually had the pleasure of having dinner with him in Miami. He's doing about $300K a month profit. He's big on social media at like 26 years old. And he told me, he's like, oh, I take like 6 walks a day. And most people, whenever they hear bits and pieces of information like that, they're not going to take it that seriously. Whenever somebody's doing something that I want to do or living the life that I want to live, I always listen to the little things and I pick up on them and I implement those little things. Like I'm like a sponge. I'm being extremely coachable. So when he told me that, it really stuck with me and I remembered it. And I've been taking more walks recently. I think steps are good just to kind of get the blood flowing, like walking around. I used to be more of like a runner, but I think running, like humans aren't really built to run as much. We're more so built to like walk and sprint. But regardless, I've been walking a lot more. I also listen to founders podcasts, and a lot of the most successful people in the world talk about this as well. It's not an uncommon thing amongst those people, but what they do is they take a lot of walks and they have absolutely zero stimulation, no people to talk to, no phone, just walks in nature or meditation and things like this. And that allows your subconscious thoughts to come to you, because when you're always stimulated and you're always thinking and you're always going and you're always running your wheels, you can't let those subconscious thoughts come to you and make those great decisions. I think the biggest thing that I found with solving problems is like sometimes you have to be aware of it. Like awareness is the first step to problem solving. How are you going to solve a problem that you don't even know that's there? For example, for me, I didn't even know dopamine was a thing. You have to actually have the knowledge before you can go out and implement. So once I understood dopamine was a thing and there were successful people doing these dopamine detoxes, that's when I actually tried it out. And some things don't work that well, I'll be honest. Like, I try some things out, they don't work that well, but most things do. Like, when you study the most successful people, at least when I have, all the little things that they do, maybe I can't really understand the direct benefit right off the bat, but I always trust the process and I just try to try things out and see if it works for me. And a lot of times it does. And again, dopamine detox was one of the biggest things for me. I think the quicker that you can find out about this information, the quicker that your subconscious can start to process it, and at least you're aware of it. And then obviously if someone's aware of a problem and they're aware of a solution and they don't work to solve it, then that's on them at the end of the day. Like, they might as well chalk it up. They're probably not going to make it. Again, I know how useful it was for me to find these videos like early on in high school. To be fair, like, I knew like millionaires and things like this, but I didn't really know anyone that was like 100 million plus or 1 billion plus, like these extremely high net worth, highly successful individuals around the world. So there's a ton of traffic in Florida by the beach for some reason right now, but I'm finishing up going to pick up this raw milk. I usually do like dark, like clean chocolate. I have a super clean diet. I actually made another video speaking about my morning routine and like just being absolutely dialed in with the deep work and stuff right now, scaling the companies. So if you haven't seen that video, I would check that out, because a lot of these things work together, so you have to get all of it right. And this would be like a 20-hour video if I just packed it all into one. So yeah, go out and implement. Let me know in the comments if anyone has any questions about like the schedule or how dopamine detox works or things like that. And let me know your results in the comments of how well it worked for you. Also, let me know what type of content or videos you guys want to see, because I kind of just record a video about a new topic each week that I think of and something that's been beneficial to me, and try to stay consistent with it. And I'm probably going to start editing these videos more and doing like more highly edited videos, but I really do appreciate like the raw style content and just kind of talking off the dome here. So hopefully it helps someone out there, and I'll see you in the next one.